Okay, so this is a recap of our lesson from Tuesday that explains um, exponential versus, what is that? Exponential versus radical form. So I want you to use your calculator to find this. So pause this and let's see if you took the cube root of 8 and then you did 8 to the 1/3 power. So if you didn't do this yesterday, maybe you were absent. The cube root on your calculator, I think, is math 4. And then you can do 8 to the 1/3 by 8 and then raise it to the 1 divided by 3. I'll give you a minute to do that. All right, so in this first one, you should have gotten a 2. And in the second one, you got a 2. Look at that. They come out the same. All right, and then on number 2, you should go and find the 4th root of 625 and then 625 to the 1/4 power. And so in your calculator, you got to tell it to take the 4th root first, and then you press math, and then you hit 5, I do believe. All right, and that should give you the number 5. And then if you raise 625 to the 1/4 power, you also get a 5. And then do the same thing with 27. And you should have gotten a 3 and a 3. So if we take all this stuff away, and you look at the similarities between the expressions, notice that the root and the denominator of the exponent are the same. Okay, so there is a rule about exponents. When we make fractions into exponents, they actually turn into the roots. So copy this rule down, and then we're going to play around with this a little bit. All right, so write this in rational or exponential form. So basically this becomes, you're basically writing the big number as your base, and then you've got a fraction for your exponent. So remember, again, the root is always in the bottom, and then the exponent or the power is going to go to the top. And if you put both of those in your calculator, you'll get the same number. Try this next one. All right, again, you should get 2. And then a 5 is, oh, sorry, my dog is barking at my cat. And there you go, and you should get the same thing. Okay, it's quiet now. I had to put my dog in the basement for a little bit. All right, so let's try this. Now go backwards. Write it in radical form, and then we're going to evaluate it. So you have the 8. That's your big number. So that's going to be the 8. And you're writing a radical this time. So again, the root is going to go here. So we're taking the cube root of 8. And then the exponent could go in one of two places. You could put it here, or you could take the cube root of 8 and then raise the whole thing to the second power. No matter how you do it, it's going to come out the same. So let's play around with that a little bit. I like the one on the bottom better because it makes the number smaller and then makes it bigger. Right here, you're taking the cube root of 64, and that's 4. But here, you're taking the cube root of 8, which is 2, and then you're squaring it, which makes it a little easier. Either way, you're going to get 4 as an answer. All right, let's try playing around with some variables. All right, so let's remember this rule from Algebra 1. You have to remember anything inside of a parenthesis, if it is raised to a power, is going to have, each part is raised to that power. So this is the rule we're using. So 3 is going to be raised to the 3rd power. And then y squared is going to be raised to the 3rd power. And now we've got another rule that we need to remember. We've got the rule about anytime you raise an exponent or a power to a power, you're basically going to, oh, I didn't want to do that. Anytime you're going to raise anything from a power to a higher power, you're basically multiplying it. Okay, so A is equal to M times N. All right, so this is going to become, when we come down over here, we're going to do 3 to the 3rd is 27. And y squared to the 3rd power is really just y to the 6th. And that's it. That's all you do with that. All right. If that seemed a little bit fuzzy to you, go back and watch some of those videos that I posted the other day for you to watch because they're really good about explaining the power rule. All right, let's go back and look at this one. Now let's apply it to something we do in Algebra 2. So you've got 5 is going to be squared, and then a to the 1/2 will also be squared. So now we're going to use both of those rules. Well, we know what 5 squared is. And now if we go and multiply the 1/2 times the 2, we're just going to get a to the first power, but we don't really write it. All right, so that's all we do with that. Now 1/2, a to the 1/2, let's go over here for a little bit. A to the 1/2 is really just the square root of a. So this is basically saying we're squaring the square root of something, which, you know, again, we just get a. So that's how that works if we were talking about exponents. I mean, if we were talking about radicals. All right, let's try this one. Well, this is a negative. All right, no big deal. But we're going to play around with that. All right, so again, don't get swayed by the negative. Let's go and just look at what we're doing. Let's go ahead and multiply this out because it might simplify it a little bit. So 2/3 times -3. Put that in your calculator, 2 divided by 3, and then you're going to multiply it times -3, and you should get -2. So that really is x to the -2 power. What does that mean? Let's go back and remember what negative exponents do. They actually just make it a reciprocal. So, oh, I've got some stuff going on. All right, they make it a reciprocal and then they make the exponent positive. So this really becomes 1 over x squared. It's really all it does. It goes back to this rule. Anything to the -m power is 1 over a to the m. So basically just moves it to the denominator or the other side of the fraction block. Let's play around with this one. Now this one that we didn't do in class, okay? So I made it a little harder. So we're going to simplify this as much as we can. So I've got 64 is going to be raised to the 3/2. So 64 is going to be raised to the 3/2 power. And then x squared will also be raised to the 3/2 power. So let's play around with that, all right? So if you think about it, you're taking the square root of 64 and then you're cubing it, right? This is the square root. So, square root of 64 is 8, and then 8 cubed. I got to calculate that out because I don't know it off the top of my head. All right, so I got 512. All right, so 512 is going to be our number. Let's go back up here and see what we get with this. Now, here's our rule. We got to multiply these two guys together. So 2 times 3/2. So that's just going to give us x to the 3rd power. Not much we can do with that. So that just stays the same, x to the 3rd power. All right, if you were absent yesterday, I've got those IXLs for you to do. If you weren't absent and you did your IXLs and you're caught up on all your other ones, then you have a worksheet that you're going to do on radical and rational exponents. So your worksheet is going to be today, and I'm out for the day, so you know it is due today. No exceptions. It must be done. All right, have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.